The Finding Purpose podcast is proudly brought to you by Relive the Moments, founded by visionary entrepreneur John Lim. We live in a world where it's easy to capture memories, but Relive the Moments makes it effortless to re-experience and share them. From NFC-enabled tap coasters and photo frames to interactive video cards, Relive the Moments turns everyday objects into unforgettable tap-to-experience keepsakes. Imagine gifting a wedding guest a coaster that instantly opens your highlight reel, or giving your event sponsors a custom frame that tells your story with just one tap. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, planning a wedding, honoring a legacy, or elevating a brand experience, Relive the Moments is the bridge between the past and present, between memory and connection. It's not just a product, it's an experience. Visit www.relivethemoments.com and use promo code PURPOSE for 25% off your first order. Let's bring your memories to life, one tap at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vora, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm Adam, and I'm grateful you're here. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or watching on the official YouTube channel of the Finding Purpose podcast, thank you for your continued support. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share. It helps us keep building this incredible community. Last week's conversation with Katia Levine explored feminine leadership, authenticity, and the power of creating spaces where people can rise. Today's guest continues that thread in a real and very grounded way. Penny Goffman is an innovative entrepreneur, community builder, and devoted mom known for her ability to connect and empower women through meaningful, purpose-driven experiences. She specializes in strategic experiential storytelling, helping brands deepen their visibility, loyalty, and impact by building community around who they are and what they stand for. Before launching her current work, Penny served as head of community at HeyMama, where she fostered deep connections among moms in business through curated events, partnerships, and national programming. She's also an accomplished writer, a former fashion stylist, and emcee for brands like Bloomingdale's, Lord & Taylor, Alice and Olivia, and Athleta, and the founder of Jolie Gotique, a mobile fashion pop-up boutique she successfully built and sold. Her voice and expertise have been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Greenwich Lifestyle Magazine, Greenwich Magazine, Westchester Family, HeyMama, and on multiple podcasts, including That's Total Nonsense and That Greenwich Life with our friend Dorothy Simone.
Yes.
Penny's mission is simple but powerful. Bring women together, elevate their stories, and create spaces where connection becomes a catalyst for growth. Let's get into it, Penny. How are you?
I'm sorry I gave you a mouthful for a bio.
Hey, listen, I hope I hit the key points for you. It was great to see you the other day, and I really enjoyed that event, frankly, like the Haven event and you and Laura, and I think you guys both had really, really good energy just going back and forth. So it was really cool to be a part of it. And that's why I reached out to you. I was like, you know what? I should have Penny on. We had talked about it when we had initially met at, where did we meet? We met at the granola bar, I think. And,
Yes.
you know, like here we are. So I didn't realize you were Canadian.
I am Canadian, born and raised in Montreal.
I noticed it when you were speaking,
Ooh.
where there was subtle ways that you pronounce things, and I looked over at who's the marketing director?
Was it Leslie?
I looked over at Leslie, and I was like, does she have an accent, or am I just imagining this? And she was like, yeah, she's from Canada. And I was like, okay, cool.
I was so happy because I used to tell my husband, we're 20 years married soon, and we've known each other for longer. And I used to tell him that I was exotic and that he was like with an exotic woman. And then it became less exotic when the accent started to go away.
Yeah.
And well, so I'm so glad to hear that I'm still exotic.
Well, I mean, Canadian?
We're just keeping
Let
it.
it pass.
Keeping
You're exotic. You're exotic.
Let me be.
Absolutely. So, I don't really, I know what you do in the community. And obviously, we've been friends and I've seen what you do on social media, but I'd love to kind of dig into your early story and obviously, go from there.
Of course. Okay. Well, cut me off. How early do you want to go? But yes, born and raised in Montreal, was in business school, moved here to New York City after undergraduate, kind of similar story to a lot of people, went straight into finance. Was in finance for 6 years, learned so much. And, my mentor there, Felicity, giving you a shout out, it was an unbelievable experience. It was burning the midnight oil. You really learn grit. You really learn how to work hard. You really learn how to level up and be in front of people. And then basically got married. My husband coerced me into moving to Fairfield County. We didn't have kids. We were newlyweds, but he had been reverse commuting. And then basically I kind of just had children and then did a 180 in my career at that point. After I had children, I decided that I needed to get back out there, that I absolutely loved being a mom, but there was much more in me and it wasn't going to be in the financial world anymore. But fashion was something that had been my purpose and a passion of mine at the time. And I ended up launching this mobile fashion boutique, which was the first of its kind in Fairfield County. So it was very innovative. Everyone thought I was crazy. I was 5'2". It was this 24-foot truck. It was like a bus, basically, literally a school bus that had been, refurbished. It was wildly successful. There is zero overhead in the business. I ended up having a private label. I had stylists in different areas. We did lots of private events. You would rack up thousands and thousands of dollars in an hour at a private shopping event, and you didn't have utility bills, and you didn't have. It was so genius. Even though it was met with a lot of laughs, and I think you probably heard this yesterday.
Yeah.
A lot of laughs at the beginning, like, "What? You're gonna drive a fashion truck?" and literally laughing in my face. But I won in the end. Ended up selling it, which was in a prime market. I sold it in the depths of COVID when everyone's brick and mortars were closed.
Yeah.
So what did people want if you were a retailer? A mobile fashion boutique that also had an e-commerce, that also had stylists and locations already, ready to go. But really what happened was it was a super forward-facing job. That's really where my community work began, because it was my first time being an entrepreneur. And, I really had to dive deep into the female community locally in Fairfield County, in Greater Connecticut, Westchester. Then we expanded all throughout the tri-state. And I really had to use my connection skills. And that's really where, the whole notion where I am now, when we fast forward, of these in-person experiences, getting community together, building experiences around sort of a mission or an activity. That's kind of really where it began. But I didn't even know at the time. And then basically what happened was, simultaneous to the sale, I started a role as head of community at HeyMama, which was a private membership community for moms in business, mainly entrepreneurial moms. And there were some incredible members. You mentioned that you had Katya on last time. So you have heard of HeyMama, of course. It was an incredible 5+ year experience. It was acquired in January of 2025. But that is really when I kind of officially put my community building shoes on and my hat on and really went into the weeds and got to, as officially, create connections between hundreds and hundreds of women nationwide, digitally, in person. I learned so much through the experience, and shout out to Imre Kibler. co-founder as well. And it was incredible.
Yeah.
And in 2025, after, it was acquired, I really was left with okay, I'm going to take a pause. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going to go now. It was a nice and needed pause, but the pause didn't last very long because something that I learned is that when you show up with purpose, and I know that this podcast is finding purpose.
There we go.
When you
Right
show
to it.
up, right to it. When you show up with purpose and you have a good reputation and you have put in the freaking work, put it in, and people see it, then when you are free, they will come out. They will come out to support you. They will come out saying, I can finally hire you. Yeah. How can we work together? All the things. And that kind of led me into basically present day.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. Podcast over. Thanks, Penny. No, that was a lot. And I'm going to kind of start because obviously growing up in Montreal and then coming to New York City for education and your career, what was that transition like?
So something about me, and this is through all the various transitions I've had personally, professionally, is that I'm not scared of risk, and transitions don't scare me either. So I know for a lot of people, it can be paralyzing or there's a lot of nerves. I find new starts to be exhilarating and exciting. And I also just throw myself in. So the transition was really just so exciting.
Yeah.
It was like I am moving, Montreal's a big city, but I am moving to New York City.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be Sarah Jessica Parker in Sex and the City, literally moved here, broke up with my boyfriend that I had for 4 years who was already living here, basically right when I landed. And sorry, Andrew. And I'm name dropping here.
No, that's okay. Poor Andrew.
But basically, I was like, I'm going to be Carrie Bradshaw. I am going to work my butt off. I'm going to wear the most gorgeous outfits to work. I'm going to meet the most incredible people. I'm going to put everything into it. I'm going to have an incredible, nightlife here, and I'm going to go and have fun, and I'm going to party. And it was only 6 months after moving to New York City that I met my now husband. So sadly, my
6 months?
Yeah, my Carrie
So
Bradshaw years were very short-lived.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Where do you think you get that fearlessness of change and transition? Because I think you're right. There's a lot of people who do struggle with change or adjustment.
Look, do I really know where? But I can only speak for myself. Personally, I think it comes through confidence.
Okay.
One thing that I've always felt, and this is goes really back into childhood, and when you unravel all the layers is, no parent's perfect. I'm a parent to 2 teenagers. There's plenty of things my kids are going to say about me. But one thing that I definitely knew for sure was that I was super loved. And when I did accomplish good things, whether it was good grades or, an internship or whatever it was, or being, leading this senior high school, what it was a dance show that they used to call, which was a big deal where I grew up, whatever it was, my parents were very much in awe, and they were always they praised a lot, and they, in a very genuine, authentic way, they were kind of oh my gosh, you're doing this? I remember when I got the job in New York City, from undergraduate school, I remember my dad being I cannot. I remember, first of all, my dad passed shortly after I moved to New York, so I remember this moment very well. I remember him looking at me, we're still in Montreal, and he was like, you, my little girl, is moving to New York City, and they're paying you what to work in finance? He was like, sorry, I love you, but I just can't believe it. He just, it was so authentic.
Yeah.
And I do credit that. I do credit that real, genuine authenticity of praise and love with this kind of feeling that I could just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I would everything's solvable. I will figure it out. We'll figure I'll face challenges, but we will figure it out. I will move forward. And I feel at its core, that's really where it came from.
Yeah, no, I love that. You talked about obviously jumping into the corporate space and then that running its course. How soon after running its course in the corporate space did you launch your business?
So there was definitely a hiatus. There was so much I didn't mention because I don't want to overload everyone here. But I actually, when I decided to leave the financial world, I actually was I want to go to NYU because why not? Why not throw something else on my, something different? And I was still in the city at that point. So I actually ended up doing a master's in childhood education. So like, I was like, I want to be on NYU campus, but I want to do something fast track. We're not looking to be in school another 4 years, but I really want to have a master's. And I just did something completely different. So there's a lot of transitions. But it was a few years because I ended up having my kids basically out here in, Fairfield County. We weren't in Greenwich at that time exactly.
Were you?
So we were with my daughter. When I gave birth to her, we were in Stamford. And then by the time we had my son, we were in Greenwich.
Okay.
So it was when my daughter, I took the first 5 years off and it did not work at all. When my daughter was 5 and my son was 2, that's when I launched my business at the time named after my daughter, which was Jolie Gotique, because it was a mobile boutique on the go.
Gotique.
Gotique.
Smart.
Yeah, play on words.
I think, one of the things you said is when you had your daughter, you took 5 years off and then you launched the business. And I think for some reason I've worked with a lot of female entrepreneurs, or obviously with some of the projects that I worked in, it was mothers and families. And it's become like a really impactful part of my network, frankly. But I also know there's a lot of women out there who have that first baby and take that break, but that break never ends. So what was the catalyst per se that was like, listen, like I want to do this and I need to do this for me? Because, I've had several mothers either in career or outside of career who have said that, there came a point where I had to prioritize myself as well and my ambitions. And not that they didn't love their kids, obviously they love their kids, but I also need to do what's going to make me happy.
100%. So first thing I would say is 2 things can always exist at once, and that's true for almost everything in life. So you can absolutely love your kids, love your family, love bringing your kids up, raising them, taking care of the home, all of it. And simultaneously, you can also want to further your career, launch into something new. So that was my case. I wanted both. And whether there's a perfect balance or not, there isn't, but it doesn't matter. It's whatever you make of it. So I think the catalyst for me was that I always knew I would eventually go back to work in some capacity, but I did explore and was offered kind of full-time jobs that were requiring commuting into the city. And while I did entertain them, it was no-go for me. So for me personally, I was in a position where I had that choice, right? My husband is the breadwinner, and I was in a position where I could choose not to go back to work full-time so that I could have a flexible schedule. And that was the catalyst. And then the how and the why, and in the fashion space. And well, it's always about seeing an opening in the market.
Yeah.
So I launched it in 2015. There was an opening in the market. I thought there's lots of brick and mortars. And believe it or not, if you think back to 2015, we're talking 5 years pre-COVID, the world was not all digital.
Yeah.
There were so many retailers that were just brick and mortar. They suffered over COVID. But the whole notion of, wow, I can have a fashion business and I'm seeing the kind of loophole and gap here where I can have the e-commerce, but I can have something better than a brick and mortar, something that can take me to Larchmont in Westchester, or something that can take me to Roslyn in Long Island, or something that can take me to, Montclair in New Jersey, something that's actually mobile.
Yeah.
So it was really this gap that I saw in the market in the fashion space that I wanted to fill at the time.
Yeah. And, I think thinking outside of the box is really what, makes businesses successful, because you need to really adjust to I was having a conversation with someone and they were talking about their business. And one of the trends that I've noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs is a lot of them set out to solve a problem that they're having, right? And then once they solve that problem for themselves, it clicks that other people are also having this problem too. And then they scale that. And for you, that sounds like that's exactly what you did with Gotique. What lessons did you learn through that entrepreneurial journey?
Wow, so many. Always. And I think that's just an important question.
Yeah.
And I think the reflection aspect is so critical. That is really where I learned the importance of community and connection. It was then that I understood that relationships are what actually build a business. Relationships and storytelling. And so those were kind of my first just experiences with what is my story, which was very obvious. It was myself and my daughter modeling because I couldn't afford, fit models, especially not at the beginning. So the story was this mother-daughter duo because it was women's and girls' clothing. And really the community aspect, I would say was the most critical portion. So making those connections originally in Greenwich, then expanding those connections to greater Fairfield County and Westchester, staying in touch with people, making people feel beautiful, making women feel beautiful. That's who I was, catering to, keeping track of little girls' birthdays, when I would meet them on the fashion truck and then follow up with them and, text their moms happy birthday to the girls and send little gifts to the girls, complimentary, who were customers of mine, really making customers and, those women and girls that I met feel like they were part of the experience, that they were part of this Jolie Gotique community, and that we could do special things for them and that I could connect the women together. So I would hear stories, while women were shopping. Maybe it was a philanthropist who was looking to launch a fundraiser in Scarsdale and then connecting them with women in Scarsdale who I'd done fashion truck parties with. And so it was really during that 5-year experience with Jolie Gotique that I learned that relationships and storytelling are really at the core of any business or brand.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what I do. I love inviting people in here to tell their story and talk about the adversity they faced and how they were able to learn from those experiences and live purposefully on the other side of it. So obviously, that then pivoted into a work with a community in HeyMama.
Yep.
And, Katia shared some about it. And talk to me about your experience.
It was the most wonderful 5+ years.
Where's it based? It's in the city?
No, so it's non-existent anymore. It was fully acquired in January by another community that HeyMama had collaborated with, Luminary, which is a phenomenal community. And so it actually doesn't, as far as I know, does not exist anymore.
Okay.
But originally it was based out of Brooklyn and then kind of became hybrid. And it was just a tremendous, tremendous experience for me. And the reason it was tremendous was because, I say this all the time, was because of the members.
Yeah.
So, there were thousands and thousands of members, mostly nationwide in the country. And I got to connect with just some of the most incredible working moms in LA, in Miami, in Chicago. I mean, just today, and this is the thing about connections. I can't even, it's almost like I try to talk about community and connection, and unless you've experienced it for yourself, obviously I've experienced it 1,000 times over because it's been my career, but unless you've experienced what it can do for you professionally, personally, you can't understand the magic. But even this morning, I literally got a text from a colleague of mine who worked at HeyMama, who became a dear friend based out of Chicago, who I connected with my friends and community at the brand Roan.
Oh, nice.
Maybe a couple of weeks ago after Roan did an event with me at Haven. So it's again, all of the connections, everything just aligns like that when you keep it going. I connected them together because Roan just opened up their store in Lincoln Park in Chicago. And my colleague Kristen's based in Chicago. So she texted me today with a photo of her and a HeyMama member this morning. And it was
nice.
a big thank you. Thank you for making the connection with Roan. How she then ended up inviting a bunch of HeyMama women that she knew from the area to the launch event. And it's just it's infinite.
Yeah.
That circle is infinite.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I'm big on community. And one thing I've noticed is that people, obviously because of social media, aren't as connected to communities. And I lean into a multitude of different communities, some in Westchester, some out here. And then I'm just big in the networking space because I want people to know my face, not just from social media, but as a person walking around, right? What do you think is the biggest disconnect that people have when it comes to immersing themselves into community?
Okay, so there's probably a lot there. So first of all, I actually think I'm all about in-person experiences.
Yeah.
And currently in 2025, my current business that, I kind of ended up launching, which is that Penny Connect, is all about in-person experiences. But I do believe that for, let's just call it Instagram, some people prefer LinkedIn, et cetera, can be an incredibly powerful community building tool. And I can talk about that more. I think one of the misconceptions or misunderstandings is that connection is not built on one, experience with someone, one moment with someone, one event with someone. That is where it's ignited. That is where the relationship begins. Just the tip of the iceberg. Everything that happens after that initial connection is where the community building starts. So if you meet someone and then you don't stay in contact and you don't, start following them on social media, or you don't invite them to the next event that you're hosting, or you don't find them a connection, maybe you reach out randomly when they're least expecting it with, a connection that you think would be interesting for them, or, you don't give them a heart emoji on a post, whatever it might be. There's so many different ways to stay engaged. If you don't continue that connection, you're not going to build that relationship with them. And that's true of community, micro, macro, digital, in person. It's critical to ignite that spark and feel the energy with someone or with a group or with a brand. But ultimately, the magic happens when you see it out, when you continue to stay engaged.
Well, yeah, and I think there's so many different ways that you can continue to stay engaged. And for me, like the social media is great, and it's almost, I don't look at it as like it's very much the tip of the iceberg. And just like you said, like with one event, it also is. How do you manage those connections? Because obviously you're going to be meeting more and more people during each event, right? And I think I had a friend say this on this podcast where he's like, I don't go to events, bro, and shake everybody's hand because, I can't water each of those relationships equally. So I'm more likely to make a couple meaningful connections and then set up a call with them or go get coffee with them and then really learn what they're about and really learn whether we can collaborate on something. And that's usually the approach that I take when it comes to networking events, because then when I see these people again, they've already had a deeper conversation with me, and the relationship seems more authentic, if you may, than if I just, shook a bunch of hands, gave out a bunch of business cards, asked people to follow me, because I do find that that's how the nature of in-person events has transformed, where it's like, all right, and you see some face that they put on, their networking event face, but you don't really see the actual person,
Yeah. So I agree. I meet lots and lots of people, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm sure you do as well. And while as host, my job is to greet everyone.
Yeah.
My job is to shake everyone's hand as host, because I would say, 90% at this point of the events that I'm at, I am either speaking at, moderating, or I've actually curated, executed hosting myself.
Yeah.
So my job in all of those positions is generally to shake everyone's hand.
Yeah.
But I become an expert on what works for me in terms of someone's energy, and if I can see that there is a deeper connection that I want to play out there. I know from the shake of the hand or the smile or what their initial approach is with me, if this is someone that I'm interested in pursuing a deeper relationship with. So while I may shake everyone's hand, because as host that is part of my role and responsibility, I don't then follow up with everyone, of course. And I know automatically who that is. And one example it would be, and this is just a personal preference, right? I don't like when people come and give me a sales pitch right away. I don't want any sort of sales pitch the first time you meet me at all. And if anyone comes and they shake my hand and that's how they approach me, then it's very likely we're never going to build a relationship together, because I want a relationship built on not just authenticity, but really on who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And if that's all you have to say to me when you meet me is trying to sell me on, let's partner on this, let's collaborate on this is what I do, and I can't even get in a word to understand even, where do you live? Do you have children? Do you if we can't get in another word together, then I'm probably not going to pursue that. So I feel like for me, while I am meeting a lot of people in the room, I'm sure when you hosted the Lamborghini event, you were meeting a lot of people in the room because that was part of your role and responsibility. But for example, you and I sitting here together or maintaining a relationship was because obviously there was some form of energy or conversation, and we stayed in touch after. And I think you and I are a perfect example of how these things really do play out. You just stay in contact. You don't know what you're going to do together, but you know that there's opportunity in the future to partner on something, to work, to have discussions. You feel it. And so you just stay in touch in that kind of a way.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny that you mentioned that event, because I was overwhelmed. And in my heart, like, I'm actually probably more of like an introvert when it comes to just me as a human being. Like, I'd rather just like be home and like in front of my computer and just getting things done and having like one-on-one conversations like this, which is obviously why I launched a podcast. But like that event, like, everyone knew me, because it was a space where everyone knew you and you didn't know them. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt some discomfort in some of those moments, which is why I kind of stayed in one place and kind of surrounded myself with people I knew and loved, frankly, and just like kind of let people come to me, because I would see someone and they'd introduce themselves, and then maybe like an hour later I'd see them again, and it was just like overload, like So, but that's something. It was a great event. Like, I had a great time, but it's a different vibe when that's the vibe. Like, everyone knows you and you're just not sure. But I met a lot of amazing people there, and one of the things, similar approach for me, I can tell when you're more than just your business. And I think that's really, really important. And oftentimes you're right. When people come and they hit you with a sales pitch right away, it's like, bro, like, we don't even have each other's email, first of all. I don't really even know what you're talking about because we just met. You're a realtor? Like, and that's the thing that grinds my gears too. And on the same token, I understand why they do that.
Yes.
Because they're being told that this is a business networking event, and maybe, if they work for a corporation, their boss says, go get as many leads as you can, and they're these corporate robots, or they are thinking that they're grinding and they're hustling and this is how you do it, when really, bro, let's just talk about the game. Let's talk about, your family. Let's talk about what really interests you, and that's when I'm like, all right, cool. We have other things in common, and we could probably do business together.
Absolutely.
But like, I agree with, like, me and you, like, we sat and we talked for about an hour, maybe a little longer, but we've always also been supportive of each other outwardly as well, when it came to, like, and I think that's really important. So, one of the things that you do now, obviously, is you host these amazing conversations. And I was lucky to be at the one with Laura. What do you like the most about that role? And it's funny because I'm kind of switching the table on you. What do you like the most about that role?
I guess similar to you, I love digging into people's stories and backgrounds.
Yeah.
So, 2025 for me, as I've gone out on my own, post HeyMama, has been all about connecting women leaders and brands. And the best way that I can do that is through storytelling, is really by like uncovering and peeling back the layers on incredible entrepreneurs, incredible brands, their CMOs, their founders, peeling back the layers on women of their communities. And in order to get intimate, in order to share, in order to learn from each other, you really do need to dig into those stories. Everyone has a start.
Yeah.
Everyone, faces some adversity or controversy. Everyone has a moment where something, ignites or, their best win. So I think that we can all learn from that. So just digging into stories, making it feel like we're sitting around a living room, all of us women. Sorry, they're mostly women at that event.
Hey, it was cool. I was fine with it.
But for me, that is pure magic. It really is. It's pure magic to see the connections and the beauty, and I'm sure you experience this as well, is every time I host an in-person experience, and especially this year since, I've been doing it on my own, people will DM me on Instagram to tell me about the connections they made. And further, not just that, tell me about the collaborations. 6 months later, I'll get DMs on Instagram like, I met this person at this event that you hosted, and we're now collaborating. I've made it into their magazine. I'm doing an event with this connection that I made through you. That, to me, there's nothing that feels better. There's nothing more fulfilling than knowing that I helped in some small part to drive, future business collaborations or relationships.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's so important. And the growth part that you talked about, where having also like difficult conversations is important in those moments. Where do you think was a major turning point for you where you faced adversity throughout your career and maybe felt lost, maybe felt disconnected, maybe felt like that, maybe, it was like a hard stop?
Okay, so again, I don't think I've had I've had many transitions.
Yeah.
Many, many, many. But none of them came out of some dark era.
Okay.
And what I'm going to say now is maybe controversial, but that really makes me proud. And what I mean by that is like, I think that there's this expectation, because I get that question. I think there's this expectation that everyone has had success through darkness. And that is true for a lot of people, but it's not my case. It's not my story.
Yeah.
Who you see here in front of you today is who I have been. Obviously, I've evolved as a person. I wasn't always a mom. But I feel that I've been consistent in many, many areas. There hasn't been this total 180. I've just gone through a lot of career evolutions and, I have 2 teenagers and et cetera, et cetera. But, at the end of the day, there's been a lot of stability that probably has made those transitions, right, feel comfortable enough to go through.
I mean, I don't think I was really saying darkness as much as a place where it was just like, all right, like, what do I do here? This is going to be hard. And I don't have the answers.
Okay, yeah. Well, of course, right. In every transition, in every transition, like this, just talking to present day 2025 has been just freaking unbelievable for me in all the ways. Like, I had no clue what I was really going to do post HeyMama, but I knew it would be in the community space and it would be with women because that's always been my, industry. And, as I mentioned, yes, at the event with Laura, I have been throwing spaghetti at the wall all year. And it has been wild. Like, I'm like, oh, I have this idea. Let's just contact that person who, by the way, is like making, hundreds of millions of dollars and just see what they say. And if they want to work with me and, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to contact, like, there's so many things in the works even, I'm just going to contact that hotel and then we're going to, or I will never forget the first client that I got, in 2025, which was in February. She was like, okay, so like send me a proposal. And I remember turning to my husband and being like, I have no idea because I didn't have to charge someone at HeyMama. I was on salary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was
so
like,
funny.
I have no idea. How much do I charge someone? I'm just going to pick up a number from the clear blue sky. Maybe ChatGPT can help me with this. Like, there's been so many transitions or like, I did an event and someone that I was working with on the event was like, do you have insurance? And I was like, didn't even think about that. Do I need insurance? Like, so there have been so many.
That is so funny that you say that.
Just like had no clue, So just all the things but something that I will share, just like a learning or a moment of adversity that I did experience this year that I think is probably important as a community builder yourself and just I had to really dig deep. So the story is that someone questioned my authenticity of wanting to support women. Okay. And you have to understand, I have built my career on that, right? So someone brought it up into question in a one-on-one conversation with me. And I took a step back at the moment, after the conversation, and had to really peel back the layers on what this person was saying and really reflect and really dig in, because boy, it shook me to my core when this person brought it into question. Totally shook me. When you feel like you've given your everything into community building and your everything into supporting women, and then someone feels like they can just question that and just say it like that, that was a real moment for me. But when I really peeled back the layers and I reflected on the hundreds and hundreds of emails, texts, in-person conversations, DMs, of the incredible collaborations, partnerships, we're talking over the last 7 years, right? Now at this point, that I have helped build for women, for female-founded brands. And I peeled back the layers on that and literally reread a lot of these things, literally went into the archives. I doubled down on it. I doubled down on it in that I am going to rise above this on some other level, okay? And I doubled down on it in that, and you'll probably get this. Just because you're a community builder, just because my passion and mission is to empower women, connect them, build community around their brands, just because that is my profession and my passion does not mean that everything needs to be given out for free, and does not mean that I have to say yes to every request for it.
Yeah.
And I got really clear on that. And it forced me. That comment from someone forced me to really get clear on the fact that, just because someone wants something a certain way or wants me to make an intro the way they want it does not mean that because I'm a community builder that I don't have the right to say no to it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who want to take advantage of people, and what I mean by that, they see what you're doing and yeah, we're nice people, but also it is a business, first of all. Second of all, a lot of the times when people make statements like that, it's really just a reflection of what they think about themselves. And, I've really come to terms with that because I'm sure I have quote unquote haters, and that's fine, but I'm not trying to reach them. And that's the thing that's really, really important, because that has helped me kind of detach myself from the opinions of others. I don't take things personally anymore. And I was very sensitive at a point during this journey, but I don't want to be everybody's cup of tea. And such is life, frankly. Quick break to shout out our sponsor, Relive the Moments. Founded by John Lim, they're redefining how we share memories. From tap-to-play photo frames to interactive coasters, they turn ordinary objects into powerful, shareable experiences. Perfect for weddings, events, or milestone moments. Relive, reconnect, reimagine. Check them out at www.relivethemoments.com. Now back to the show. One of the things you said, and I was going to ask you about it because it was such a meaningful part of the conversation, is throwing the spaghetti at the wall. And I think that it has been such a textbook approach to what I do, or what I did early on. I threw so many things at the wall, and I learned more about myself than I learned about the things that I wanted, quote unquote, thought I wanted to do. And I was like, I don't really even like this. That was the one of the biggest revelations, but I had to try it in order to figure that out. What were some things that you've thrown against the wall, particularly you said this year, and what are some lessons that you've learned after either watching them fall or watching them stick?
Absolutely. So my first client this year, who was a previous HeyMama member, I mean, she approached me like day one. It was like I was done at HeyMama, and like next day there was the phone call. So that was great. I actually wasn't ready to take it on as soon as she wanted. She, kind of waited. She was amazing. So it was Ivy League sister. Shout out to Lauren. And she's incredible. What she does is incredible. And we worked together on a 3-month project for her Ivy League Sisters Summit at the beginning of 2025. The summit was in May. And I did media placement and booked high-profile speakers, and everything about her is incredible. But it was all digital. And
It was like Zoom, like
the whole experience for me was digital. So it's like
okay.
I didn't get to meet anyone in the team.
Okay.
Yes, the summit was via Zoom,
Okay.
but the entire project was digital as well. So I wasn't meeting anyone in person. All the work I did was very much like at the laptop, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And what I realized was when I was with HeyMama, by the end, it was becoming for me a very digital career by the end. And I was fatiguing from that.
Yeah.
And so when I got this opportunity, which was incredible because she was the first person to like be like, no, she can do it on her own too. After that experience, when it wrapped, I decided, okay, digital is not something I'm looking for right now. I'm only going to take on projects that are in-person experiences because that's where I truly thrive. That's my passion. There's nothing like it. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Okay. Yeah. Digital ways, for me, I just don't feel like I'm really connecting with someone when it's all digital. Like I need to meet you in person. I need to see your body language. I need to see whether you make eye contact. I need to see your mannerisms. Those are really, really important to me. I think I learn more about someone through those nonverbal communication than I do with what they say, because a lot of people spew out what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see in their mannerisms whether they're authentic or not. And, I have a keen sense when it comes to that.
Yes.
Now that you are, you found what you like to do, what are your plans in regards for 2026?
Great question. So I think there's going to be one element of more of what I'm already doing. The Power Up series that I run for Haven is monthly. There's no end date in sight. I think that they're just keeping it going, and I'm thrilled about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be running a new series for Haven starting in January, which is really going to be all about connection and networking. No speakers,
Really?
no formal speakers. So it's more of a coffee and conversation that will happen every month in Greenwich as well, their Greenwich location. They also have been doing it in Darien for a while now, so I'm just going to kind of take over the reins in terms of the new location. So there'll be more of what I'm already doing. And then there's, of course, many projects already that are in the works, but they're slated for 2026. So one big project that I won't talk about in detail here, but slated for March, which I'm super excited for. And I think my goal really is to just bring new speakers, new real conversations like this particular one in March, like just uncovering truths, really digging deep into like the weeds with just really incredible, brilliant women, giving light to their brands, and partnering with, whether it's locations or, businesses, just kind of opening up the can there, because I think that there's just so much more to be done.
Yeah. I keep thinking about one thing that you said where you were like, not everyone's story needs to be grounded in having gone through something dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that you said that, because it's true. And I think when people see, like the woman who you mentioned, that someone didn't, like it isn't, that isn't the situation for them, that could probably have caused, certain, feelings and animosity. But I think that's so important to understand. Like at the end of the day, everyone's journey is their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really up to any of us to, grade them.
Yes.
And when you, in doing what you're doing, and obviously there's a lot of people doing what both of us are doing,
Yep.
frankly. And you alluded to having an early mentor. Who are some mentors that you have now that really add value and direction to your approach and what you do?
Oh, that's such a great question. Well,
Thanks.
no, it is. The
I never say thanks when people say that's such a great question.
No, yeah, you should.
Thank you. I'm going to start doing that.
You have to own it. You have to own it. I think for me, the truth is, this is the biggest shout out to my HeyMama community. And even if HeyMama doesn't exist anymore, I will always call them my HeyMama community. Like in 10 years, I'll still be calling them my HeyMama community because they really are my mentors. On Monday, I'll be in the city. And I'm a speaker at an event, and I'm calling it like a little mini Hey Mama reunion, even though it has nothing to do with Hey Mama.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking on a panel with all these Hey Mama members, and I know that a lot of people who have RSVP'd are Hey Mama members. They really are my true inspiration because they're all female founders. Like that, the whole premise, right? These are all women who are moms and female founders. So I relate to them. On just such a deeper level. And we're constantly in touch about what we're doing, what our projects are. You know, one amazing friend who I just spoke to last week was, she moderated a panel at Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine in LA. Like, this is like dream worthy. She had like thousands of people in the audience. We're talking like big time stage. She was like hugging Reese Witherspoon. Do you know what I mean? So I was just speaking to her and catching up on that experience. Like, she is my mentor, Kanika. So I'm name dropping again. But just like, it's these women, honestly, who I had the chance to connect with for, my 5+ years at Hey Mama, who really, they're the ones that truly inspire me. And I feel like at the end of the day, just have my back. I have their backs. And even if we don't speak, and there's some of them I've never met in person, we are like very much deeply connected.
I love that. And I think that that's awesome that it shows that just because like relationships can be enduring. And obviously there are relationships that you have in one season of your life that you may not bring into the next season. I think that's really important too. What's your experience in that because obviously building relationships is cool, but also understanding when a relationship doesn't really add value to you, to what you're doing and your mission anymore. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's really important.
So for me, it's like if I connect with someone on a personal level, I don't mean that we're exposing like our deepest, darkest secrets. I just mean that, I find their energy to be a ray of sunshine, or, I think that what they're doing has purpose and mission, even if there's no quote unquote, collaboration or partnership, or there's nothing to be done with each other, I will stay in touch.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, I think, part of the secret sauce.
Yeah.
The secret sauce really in connection, kind of what I mentioned before, is that I don't just dispose of those relationships and I don't forget about them. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me if there's no possible partnership, collaboration, work, anything in sight. If I know that their energy is great and that we met under certain circumstances, I will make sure to stay in touch, A, because I genuinely like them, B, because I'm curious about, where they end up and what happens, and C, because you never know. You never know a friend of a friend of a friend, or who they end up with. Or, I've reconnected with people who I've just kind of, stayed in touch with casually, and they've ended up moving to Greenwich, like very randomly,
That's true.
So I look at it differently. There's not a, what do you do if you realize there's nothing, to do. I do nothing, if we hit it off at the beginning, if I hit it off with someone, unless you step on my toes, but if I hit it off with you, then you're in my stratosphere for good.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yep.
I agree to a certain extent, but I also acknowledge that there were some people that they reached their ceiling when it came to what they were able to contribute to the relationship, and I was able to contribute to the relationship. And it's not that I just burned a bridge and was like, hey, it's over, we're never going to talk again. But it's more about mutual growth and growing together. And if you want to continue to grow, fine. If you're happy where you are, and that's making you content, I'm going to keep going. And feel free to reach out to me if I can add value, or if you change your mind and want to go on this journey with me. But for me, I also kind of look at it where time can be spent nurturing other relationships. So it's not like a severing of ties. It's more of a I still want to elevate kind of approach. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, relationships are always growing in different ways, but it's so easy to stay in touch. And I think that's what it is. And trust me, time is our biggest resource. I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to stay in touch. And I think that's, and staying in touch, as I said, can just mean a heart emoji on someone's post.
Yeah,
that is how
true.
easy it is to stay in touch. A heart emoji on someone's post, or, giving them like a little emoji on their IG story, that is engagement. It's literally engagement.
Yeah.
But from a relationship standpoint, what it really is saying, the words it's saying is, hey, exactly, I see you. That's it. And so that's what I mean by staying in touch. Unless you're severing ties, that's different. But it's as simple as that. It's an I see you. And honestly, that's really what, we all have so many different relationships, of course, but that's really what most people just need and want is an I see you.
Yeah. One of the things that you had alluded to earlier, you were talking about how you can't be everywhere at once, and also like knowing your value. So obviously, your work with other female entrepreneurs, and I think it is a unique space where I think people early on their entrepreneurship journey, and you kind of alluded to it, where you just, you went to ChatGPT to find a number.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's our insecurities telling us that we don't deserve this value. And then you look, however you look on ChatGPT, or you search other people who are doing what you do and what they're charging, and like, oh damn, like they're getting that much. And that was something for me where I was just like, oh, like they can charge. They're not smarter than me, like I'm doing this with heart also. And I needed to finally like validate, and it took a minute, honestly. So I want you to talk about not undervaluing yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That's probably been one of the biggest learning curves this year for me, is really putting numbers to your work.
Yeah.
And sending out proposals. And I would say the trend for me this year has been upping the number.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is absolutely what you said. Part of that is like, can I really charge that much? Is this too much? Am I worth charging that much? So there's part of that. But I think part of it genuinely has been, I really want to do this project. I'm not certain what the right price is. No one's told me other than, exactly going digitally and finding it. So I really do want them to say yes. So I'm going to put out a number that I think is a yes number, as opposed to a reach number.
Yeah.
So that I can book the project. And that's kind of how the year started off. And then once it was, I think it's part of the learning curve. Like I didn't put pressure on myself at the beginning, like the first half of the year. It was kind of like, this is my learning curve. I'm not certain what the right number is going to be. So I'm going to test this out. Then once you see that people are hitting the bid easily, then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Next time, I now know that was an easy target. So it's to me, it's less about, oh, am I worth that much? I wasn't sure if it was. And more about literally educating myself on what the right number is and kind of going up the staircase.
Yeah.
So in my latest proposal, for example, for an event that is slated to be for March 2026 and a bigger one, I really upped the ante on some numbers and people still hit the bid. But what I also got really clear on is that people want, as they should, brands, want to understand like real what the ROI is.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to put up a big number, like you better be very clear on what the ROI is for that investment, because it is an investment. It comes out of marketing budget.
Yeah.
And there's other opportunities. And I just think the more itemized, the more clear you are, the more detailed the event experience is built around them, then, so that's been like probably one of the biggest learnings from this year is like how to value things, how to price it out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like testing the waters, And we spoke this week with Laura a lot about credibility. Like at the end of the day, for me, and still, even though I have so much community building experience and, was head of community for a, national organization, the fact is this is my first year out on my own. And building up that portfolio is what also builds credibility.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with the fact that I have lowballed it before because it was all part of adding to my portfolio, and it just is giving me more ammo to up the bid as I enter 2026.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's really, really, really important because, early on for me, like, I took work just because it got me into certain rooms, frankly. And now it's really more about the commodity of time for me. So if this is going to take X amount of hours, then I actually need this X amount of dollars. And don't get me wrong, I have, worked with people who weren't very cognizant of my time. And one of the things for me is getting really comfortable being like, okay, this is what we agreed on. This is all the extra work I did, and this is what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
It's super important to do that. And I think a lot of people feel meek about doing that because they're like, oh, well, I didn't tell them, or no, but they also, cost you an extra 25 hours that you could have used, A, doing another project, B, generating leads or working leads. You could have been doing a whole other things to better your business. So that's something that I became more comfortable with doing. And also, like you said, clearly outlining exactly what you're going to deliver.
Absolutely.
That's super important. I love that. So I want to obviously talk about purpose because, your mission really is to help these purpose-driven female entrepreneurs. So what does the word purpose mean to you?
For me, purpose is really about deep connection. So, and it's not just necessarily with people. It's really with everything. You mentioned time is, time's our biggest commodity. It's my most valuable commodity. For me, purpose is really having deep connection. So whether it's deep connection with my body, deep connection with my partner, husband, in my case, deep connection with my kids, deep connection with my career, deep connection with my home. Like my home is my everything. It's my zen. Really, it's deep connection when I'm working out. For me, it's like if I can't get to that grounded place in all the different facets of my life, then I'm losing purpose in that area. And of course that happens. Of course there are times where I feel disconnected in all areas. There's different pockets. But when I have purpose, when I have full purpose, it's when I am truly authentically connected with those critical areas of my life. And that's when I feel my most whole.
Yeah, I can relate to that, especially when, when one of those has a disconnect, it can throw me off for the whole day. For me, obviously, it's the connection, like if I don't work out in the morning at like 5 a.m., I feel like, I don't know what it is. It's just nagging feeling in the back of my head that I think about all day. And it's frustrating.
Yeah,
so
get done with.
It really, really, it's become that way because also I'm like a creature of routine where it's like, get up at 4:45, wake up at 5, get to the gym by like 5. I live right across the street from the gym. And, then I come home, I have a coffee. I have this like stringent routine. And when someone or something fucks with it, frankly, like it throws me off. I'm okay. Obviously, like I'm very good at resetting throughout the day with like breath work and just like honestly just sitting there in silence sometimes. But for, like that's the one thing where I just need that energy just to be omitted early in the day.
Absolutely.
And I know you're like that too.
100%. Yes. I like to say, so what I think is always that I have like the most unboring life. Okay. I have the most unboring life. Like my next week is jam-packed with like super exciting experiences. And yet I also have the most boring life. And what I mean by that is from a macro level, my life is very adventurous, and there's lots of travel and events and parties and fashion and all the things and kids' activities, right? But from a micro level, like the details of the day-to-day, my life is incredibly boring in the most beautiful and purpose-driven way. And to your point, it's that I am happy. If I could, I would eat the same thing every single day. I can't because my family doesn't let me, because like everyone just wants to change it up apparently. But like, you know, eating boring is like, you know, the core to my health, and like working out regularly at the same time is at the core to my health, and drinking my tea before bed with my legs up against the wall for my circulation is at the core to my life, and trying to read before bed, and all the boring things that I do exactly the same pretty much day after day after day. Those are, you know, the key to keeping my alignment and keeping my connection, which ultimately are the core of my purpose.
Yeah, I can relate to that because sometimes I go places, Penny, and people are like, "Oh my God, Adam, blah blah blah," like, "Oh, it's so good to see you," and I know you're so busy, and I'm just like, my life is not that crazy, you know, like, you know what I mean though, and I'm like, I'm just kind of doing what I do. I've had these opportunities, and I make sure also to not get too big and not to get too small on myself. And I think when that happens, I'm just like, I'm here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just look at it as it's just kind of what I do, and I've embraced it. So I feel that I love the way that you put that, the unboring, boring life.
But really boring,
You know, because
and I love it.
it's just our role, guys. Like, you know, and I invite you to join me, frankly.
Yes.
Because, you know, we'll have a good time.
Yep.
And that's really what's really important. Having a good time, deep connection, building these relationships, laughter, and then going home and being boring.
Exactly. Going home and being boring.
Right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. My husband just always jokes, and he like threatens me or gives me ultimatums that he's gonna like take photos from my Instagram of like the real Penny, which is the Penny drinking tea at 9 p.m. in her bed with her book, you know. He's like, I'm gonna take a picture of you and show everyone the real Penny.
Well, it's funny, but, you know, that's kind of what social media has done to us because, like, you know, I post some of that stuff. Like, I post my cat a lot, you know, like.
But it's kind of boring. So I'm like, it's kind of boring. No one wants to see it.
Yeah. You know, but like I should probably lean more into that because, you know, it's funny. I just had a talk with he's just kind of a mentor, my friend Brandon Godoris, and he's a very good friend. He's become a mentor. He's just a community builder in his own right. Shout out to Warm Heart Life. And he's like, you need to start posting organic content. He's like, listen, don't get me wrong. Your profile looks really good, but you need to start talking to the camera more. Yeah. Be like, hey guys. And our friend Dorothy is very good at that.
Yes.
She is shameless when it comes to just speaking to the camera. And I wish I had the courage that she does. And that's one of the goals that I set out for myself in this upcoming year is to start posting that organic content where people feel like they know me on a personal level. Yeah. Because I think people like the content that I'm putting out, and I think people know the story, which is very important. Yeah. But it's a fear that I need to overcome in order to take my business to the next level. Yeah. And so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to tune in myself. I
just can't wait to like laugh at me. This is a question I end every episode with. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone on that journey of finding purpose?
Okay. That's a great question. You can say thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. I think you have to be really, really, and it's incredibly difficult. I'm always in the process and struggling with it myself, but I think you really have to look under the hood of yourself. That is so difficult. I feel like, and what I mean by that is you need to really peel back the layers on yourself. Like if you want to find real purpose, if you want to understand how to deeply connect with your soul, with your body, with others, with, you know, everything that's around you, family, whatever it is that you have in your life, you need to really put a magnifying glass to yourself, you know, and you'll uncover some shitty things. Like there's ugliness in all of us, but I do think that that's really at its core, the deepest way and the best way to really find purpose and connect deeply with all the things is when you really look. Like when something triggers me, I have to go like full ugly on myself. I am like, what is it in me? What is it in me? Not what did they say? What is it in me that triggered me so badly there?
Yeah.
Like why? Why? Or if I feel jealous about something and it happens, I'm like, what is in me that possibly made me jealous? Why aren't I 100% happy for that person? Why was I only 60% happy for them? Because I felt it. Now, why did I feel it? Because I'm so in tune with myself, because I'm constantly doing the work. Another person might not even realize that they were jealous. They might just have a feeling and they might overlook it. I will stop and be like, I felt that. I felt that jealousy part. Why? Why was it there? I peel back the layers. I'm really trying to take like a deep look into it. What is it about me? What is it about my personal life, my body, my career, my relationship, my kids? What is it that triggered me and made me feel that jealousy or that envious or that I wasn't included or whatever it might be? And when you can really, and I'm working on that daily.
Yeah.
We're no pro here. But when you can do that and you can really look at your ugly side and, peel back the layers on yourself, I think that's when you open yourself to really feeling aligned and deeply connecting with all the areas. And that's when you find your purpose.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I love that we're ending on this note because I think, for me, I call it like taking a personal inventory. And I have to do that sometimes daily, sometimes hourly, if I'm feeling some type of way, if something triggers me. And one of the things I always like to say is the people who can push your buttons are usually the ones who install them. And I think that's really important.
Love that.
Because it's me, but it's like also a reflection of the relationship that I have with this person. And usually not seated in that immediate moment. It's usually something that has been building up or something that happened that really holds space in my head that I haven't reconciled with yet. So I need to be cognizant of, hey, how do I uninstall this button as soon as I can?
Absolutely.
Because I can't and don't want to ever feel that way again.
100%.
And I also don't want to give somebody else the power to see that button and push it as well. And, I do that on a daily basis, usually at night when I'm journaling and just kind of take an inventory of how my day went, some of the things that I was happy about, some of the things that I wasn't so pleased about, some of the things that I learned, and some of the opportunities that I might have tomorrow. And usually that's kind of a good way to break down that journal entry because then I almost put some closure on this chapter, which is this day, right? So yeah, I love that we're ending on this note, and I really, really appreciate you coming in kind of last minute, and just making the time because we talked about time, and I really appreciate you giving me the time today and our conversation.
Thank you for having me, Adam. This is great.
Absolutely. What I want you to do actually now is, if you can speak to your camera, just tell my audience what you have coming up next, how they can reach you, and anything that you would love to share with them.
Awesome. Okay. Well, join Haven's Power Up every single month. Next is December 10th with Lauren Dudley Stevens of Dudley Stevens. And the best place to reach me is at That Penny Life on Instagram. That's where I really check my DM the most. So I'm going to leave you with that.
Thank you so much, Penny. Penny Goffman, so grateful to have you here. I do want to shout out also Kaya Visions, Claudio, Justin, thank you so much for everything you do here. If you guys are looking for any content, you want to launch a podcast, you want to create marketing material for your business, feel free to reach out directly to me and I can connect you with them on my social media, or you could reach out directly to them at Kaya Visions on Instagram. I also want to thank my sponsor, Relive the Moments, their CEO, John Lim. You probably saw the intro commercial and the one that we put in the middle of the episode. If you need any NFC tap technology, you want marketing materials, you're a realtor and you want to incorporate it into an open house, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at @AdamVora_. And you can also go to my website, www.adamvora.com, and learn more about my coaching program, learn more about the podcast, how to be a guest, how to get involved. And last but not least, I want to thank everyone who listens. At the end of the day, you guys are the reason why I'm able to do this. And you guys are the reason why we're able to reach other people and hopefully guide them to living and loving purposefully. Thank you so much. And until next time.